and it'll record. All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to our live stream. My name's Dr. Joseph H. Vertino, available under Joe H. Vertino on Facebook. I have a bunch of, you can message me on there personally. I have Facebook pages and groups like Mother Mary's Healing Rosary. And the like on there. And Mother Mary's Healing Rosary, Healing Prayers, Reiki Society Global, into the Divine Mind with Joe HV is another one. Into the Divine Mind with Joe HV. And then my SoundCloud is just under the search bar, Joe HV, which is capital J, lowercase OE space, capital HV. That's my SoundCloud. And if you look around, you will find the links to that. The quickest way is if you message me on Facebook under Joe H. Vertino. I can send you all the links. And I have 3 books published on Amazon. My Own Religion, The Power of Love, which is a manifesto, my first book. The Reiki Bible, A Guide to Reiki Living. And then The Nothingness of Love, a Buddhist book of poetry, is my 3rd book. And then the 4th one I'm writing right now is The Reform of the Education System. So I have all that going on. Yeah, and I have my friend, and this is our first official spiritual instruction video together discussion. We're using StreamYard, which is awesome, and it goes automatically to YouTube and gets posted, which is what this link is going to be, obviously, that you're watching wherever you are watching it. And recording it live now on StreamYard because StreamYard's awesome. Pretty duck symbol thing with the headphones. Okay, so let's see. Am I forgetting anything to mention? Books, music. I have my 2 YouTube channels, Joe Vertino and Joseph Vertino, V as in victory, Vertino, my last name on the screen. And I think that's it. SoundCloud, music, books, stuff, Facebook. My Instagram, Andromeda Joe 811, ANDROMEDA JOE 811, all lowercase, no spaces, Andromeda Joe 811. Anyways, let's start our discussion. Thank you for tuning in. I have my friend Leonard here under his channel, Academic Honesty versus Plagiarism, on YouTube, I believe. Yeah, on YouTube. And let us start a discussion. Is there anything that you have on the top of your head that you want to start with, Leonard, or whatever? Go, whatever you want to mention just to begin.
I see that we don't have any viewers as yet. It's still showing as 0.
Well, I mean,
So I'm trying to share the link with others.
Well, don't
I'm
worry
trying
about
to
that.
share the link with others to see.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that if you want to, but don't worry about that. Let's just do some discussion, and then we'll post the video. And then posting the video, then we can get, at least get that out there. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
Anything? So I mentioned. So what's a topic? Do you want to do a topic that you have, or do you want me to pick something?
What were we discussing last?
Last time we discussed war, we discussed culture, we discussed different stuff along those lines. I remember when we were talking. I brought up Native American culture. You brought up you brought up Jewish people, Jewish culture, and Russian culture and people. And there was some stuff that we, I remember I went in some detail about the proper perspective, and I used the Native American people and or culture and or history to make certain points about that. If that's what you want to discuss, we can, because that wasn't recorded. So we can do that. Whatever you want to talk about, it's okay.
So we were discussing the culture, and I explained to you earlier.
Yes.
I explained to you earlier that I was invited to another group, but they talk mostly German in that group.
Yes.
And they were talking about African culture.
Okay.
And especially they were talking about the African culture, the Egyptian culture.
Yes. So
Can you excuse me for a few minutes? I'll be
yeah,
back. You can talk about your culture so long,
I'll do that. Go ahead. That's okay, Leonard.
and speak about the native Indians, maybe.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, Indian. That's a great culture to talk about. Yeah. All right. Well, so my friend Leonard mentioned what did he say? What was it? Egyptian culture, Jewish culture. So my basic introduction in this way, and I am someone who loves education as a master educator in that way. I'm a Reiki master, Usui, tradition and spiritual teacher, author, musician. And a term that I guess I kind of coined for myself is I am a cultural appreciatist. So what that means is basically, if you understand what culture is that culture is inevitable, and the other words, the I words that I use for that, inevitable in that kind of way, um, uh, impeccable is another word I use, irrevocable, and what's the other one? Innocent, and I guess you can kind of say instant or instantaneous, so to speak, which is more of like a biological psychologist, kind of like almost like cosmologist perspective that culture would be instantaneous. But my general base description of culture, if you go back, we'll go back, in time, so to speak, with humanity as a species, and you take the kind of environmental setting or structure, and you're looking at it kind of from like that uh, perspective, then that's basically how I uh, think about the uh, coming about of culture. And obviously, we know for a fact that culture is real. In that way, it's not something that's like debatable, I guess. I mean, I'm sure you'd get some people who would like chirp up or quack up because we're using StreamYard and they have a duck. They'd quack up and they'd go, well, I just feel like arguing against you just for the sake of arguing against you. But I mean, we wouldn't really be able to even have a setting to have that discussion if culture wasn't already happened. Uh, so anyway, so my perspective on this, um, and also to the point of philosophy, sometimes that happens in philosophy, playing devil's advocate, even if that person knows that they're in the wrong, so to speak, because what you're doing is philosophy is the search for the love of the search for truth, and obviously you're working to get to truth, and you take different angles and learn different techniques. So, for example, that playing devil's advocate is kind of like giving it's almost like giving a special angle that you might have missed without that perspective in play to understand more of the big picture of the truth of it. So, anyways, yes. So, culture, what do we have? We have our environment of the earth, we have the climate, we have the plant life, we have the animal life, and we have a peoples. And the peoples are civilized enough and peaceful enough that they're procreating and living in a group together, and that's consistent. And then, so that's the variable, so to speak. And then you also have the physiological aspect, meaning that if we take an example of, say, in France, and I'm not a anthropologist, where they would know the specifics, the details of what time periods on the Earth that would make that what time period that would be. Basically, I don't know all that details, but still. So, anyways, so we mentioned several cultures, and the reason I'm starting with the baseline is because this applies to all of them. So that's a good thing to start with. Even just for the sake of seeing them in a proper light. Yeah, but anyway, so the physiological aspect, and I use France as an example before we had France, right? Because culture has to develop first, and then you have after culture, you have the beginning of culture, and the consciousness of the peoples hits their feet on that what culture is, what begins it. As soon as that happens, you can't undo that, right? So you're here before culture, so to speak, and then something happens where culture just happens and sticks, right? And now now you have culture, right? Okay. So, I mean, basically, so France was physiologically, right? So I have a degree in singing. So there's something, having to do with the bones of the face physiologically and the shape of the body and certain sounds that you can produce, right? So if you have a certain bone structure, obviously every single human has a certain bone structure, particularly in the resonating chambers. So French people is a very specific, beautiful example of that. Another one that's also quite obvious and beautiful is African people, and it's reflected in the language, to this day, in the same exact fact that back then is the same exact way. Obviously, the laws of physics are the same, but who knows? That would be an evolutionary biologist job as to speak more on that. That in the interim, like whatever, it's just like the whole thing. But anyway, so if you have you understanding, so the way that the sound is produced has to do with the bone structure of the face. So and then you develop I guess you could say an intelligence instead of regressing, I guess, to say into barbarism, which would be, as I mentioned earlier, the peoples have to live together. If they were to fail, if humanity was to fail as a species, then basically you could kind of go with this point that the species wouldn't reach that foundation of culture because it would fail, right? Because you have to be a peaceful people, not murdering each other, right? And procreating together. And then I like to also kind of push into the truth that it's not about it's you have a certain environment, which implies that you're not nomadic, that people's isn't nomadic, the people. So that's my perspective on culture in that way. And then basically what happens is that happens when the I think of like chemistry, when you have a certain environment and it's correct, and then that intelligent life that is there in that environment, I guess you'd say makes the right choices, evolutionarily speaking, and then the culture develops. And then what happens is you have now a beginning of civilization. And I think of like back in school, like Mesopotamia and all this stuff. Now I know this is titled spiritual instruction. So if you need, and I'll say it, whether if you need it or you don't, and maybe you even forgot, just like me, oh, I didn't even realize this is spiritual instruction. This is enthralling, right? It's reminded me like when you have a good teacher in school. Even if you don't like the class per se, right? But anyway, so spiritual instruction. So how does this tie into spirituality? Well, what you're doing is we're talking about cultural appreciation. So being a Reiki master, there's something called the 5 Reiki principles. So those are: just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will do my work honestly. Just for today, I will be grateful. Hey, Leonard's back. And just for today, I will be kind to all living beings. So I'm glad you're back, Leonard. So what I did is where you hopped in on this is we were basically doing a background of culture in the way that it develops. So the way that culture develops, and I didn't talk about specific cultures yet. So I didn't talk about Egypt or Jewish culture or the other one that I forgot. But basically, so what did I bring up? So I mean, the spiritual tie-in, I guess you could say, is cultural appreciation. Appreciation means gratitude, right? And for something that's not going to go away, which is culture. So that's basically the spiritual, I guess, words so far in this video, in that way. And also, I guess you could say in a different way, but not really that far off from being like the whole, like a very clear, direct way. The 3rd Reiki principle, which is just for today, I'll do my work honestly. If you understand on a soul level, you tuning into this video is like the amazing, great choice. So, and your soul wanting to learn from the video and so education. So your work, so to speak, on a soul level is doing your work honestly would be like watching this video and learning and being educated, right? So that's the spiritual components, to use the 5 Reiki principles in that way. So anyway, so let's talk. So then basically, so that's what we have. That's the foundation of culture. So basically, Leonard, I don't know if you ever heard my spiel on my philosopher spiel and a lover of science on culture and its development, just from my own manner of critical thinking. But basically, you have the environment, you have the people being civilized together, not murdering each other, procreating. I say not being nomadic, I guess you could say, in that way, so to speak. Kind of have to plant your butt and your feet somewhere. Makes a lot more sense to me, for culture to develop. And then basically, in the consistency of the environment, what happens is you start. Then, if you think of it this kind of way, which is a bit poetic, but kind of still pretty relevant, I think, realistic. If you think of, is there ever been a culture that hasn't had music in that kind of way? And then there's gray area in the sense that when we mentioned the bones of the face and you start to develop certain sounds. So if, for example, if someone makes a sound, if me and Leonard were together and culture was just developing and I made a sound to Leonard, I went, and then Leonard didn't attack me and I didn't attack Leonard. And then what happens is, in that choice that to not attack each other, that peacefulness, I guess, communication starts to happen. So then you're firing new synapses, right? So now you're lessening the fight or flight and you're allowing more of the intelligence of the higher brain to turn on. And then in that, what happens in that peacefulness, you have, I guess, scientifically more dopamine, or those good feeling serotonin chemicals start to open up more. And then what happens is you start to get in a certain place where in that peacefulness, you can work together. You're not seeing the people around you as such a threat, like I said. And then you start to think differently. How can that person help me? And me working with them, well, me hurting them isn't going to help anything. You know what I mean? And then also, so me helping them though is also going to help me, and you know what I mean? So now you get into the basic way of like sociology, right? And all of that applies to the search of love for truth. Being a philosopher, I'm personally the evidence for that, my very life. So then basically, then what happens is you start to develop affinities for certain flavors, sensory experiences, foods, areas of the environment that you're in. Certain tendencies naturally develop, and then basically culture develops. Certain colors become repeatable and easy to look at, or so to speak, art starts to develop in that way. You start to develop tools, and then basically that to me that's my understanding, at least on a personal level. I don't have many classes, under my belt about culture, but that to me makes the most sense, with culture and how that develops, and all these things like that. But yeah, so that is my talk on that. Now, Leonard, are you there?
Sorry, I had to mute. There's noise in the background, yeah?
Thank you for muting. So basically, Leonard, what was your...
2 more minutes?
Sure, I'll talk. Three more minutes? 3 minutes?
Yeah, 3 minutes. It's fine.
Okay. I'll do 3 more minutes, and then we'll go into what we need more specifics on culture and correlations with spirituality, so to speak. So let's see. Okay, so if we understand, so we're at that place now. Culture developing. If you understand on a chakric level, so your chakras, being a Reiki master, this is my field of expertise, and the chakras exist in everyone. They're objectively true. It's not a matter of I'm believing that I have chakras and now I have them, and then if I don't, they turn off or go away. So that's, and then being a Reiki master, I understand chakras, the attributes, and I understand how to heal them, so to speak, how to balance the chakras and heal the being or the soul, so that they're in a place of well-being, more well-being and health, obviously. But as I just mentioned, the soul, it's not. It's so that's yes. Reiki has the ability to heal the soul, is a chapter in my second book, the Reiki Bible: A Guide to Reiki Living, available on BarnesandNoblePress.com and also Amazon.com.
Okay, I
Amazon.com.
can talk now.
Okay. Well, anyways, yeah. So go ahead, Leonard. I've talked for, it's been 20, 15, 17 minutes now. So you had a question.
Okay, so is culture important? That's my question.
Hmm.
Is culture important? And if it is important, then obviously it tells you the identity of certain people. You also spoke about the Jews, like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
The first culture that the first culture that existed was the Kemetic culture, or known as Akkadian, or known as Egyptian. Akkadian was the language. So they would speak Akkadian. So Akkadian was not the people; it was the language. It's like saying Saudi Arabians speak Arabic or Iraqis speak Arabic. So Akkadian was a language, and the people were called Kemetics. Now we know them generally throughout the world as Egyptians. We call
Yeah.
them Egyptians because they're from Egypt, but their culture was known as Kemetics. It's like how you would get the culture here in South Africa. They are called Zulu because it's a language. Zulu is a language, but the tribe is called Nguni tribe. That's the tribe. It's called Nguni tribe. So when we're looking at ancient culture, or ancient tradition, we're looking at culture that started 6,000 years BC, before Jesus showed up. That was the Kemetic culture.
Okay.
So I think culture is very important, and being the Kemetic culture, they were the rulership of Africa, because the system of Africa had one king, one ruler, which was the Pharaoh, right? The Pharaoh was the ruler. Now, there were many other kings in Africa, but there was one supreme ruler, which was the Pharaoh. The system of rulership is the Pharaoh system. Egypt is the treasure house of Africa. So, as I said before, also for Europe, the supreme king of Europe is the papacy. So basically, there are other kings there are presidents, but the supreme king in Europe is the papacy, and we know he's a world leader. He's a religious leader, and also he's the world leader, because every other leader shows him respect. They go and they visit him, they bow before him, they kiss his ring, they show him respect, because he is the world spiritual leader, the Pope, and also the leader of Europe. He's also known to his followers. They call him the spiritual leader. Then they give him other titles like the Vicar of Christ, and they call him other. They've got obviously other titles for the Pope. So the point I'm getting at,
Yes.
is that culture is important. You see, and
Yes.
you also spoke about the Indians in India. I mean the Indians in USA.
Native
They were
American.
known as the Red Indian, Native
Native
Americans.
Native Americans.
Now,
Yeah.
now they were the original. They were the first people that were actually there, because it was what we call the cowboys, right? Basically, the cowboys coming to America looking for gold, and also killing off Native Americans, coming with advanced weapons like firearms, you know, coming with gunpowder, coming with explosives. So they came with more advanced weapons to basically take over, or shall I say invade USA, and what we call the graphic thing of murdering the Native Americans, right? For they call it that because they just wanted the gold. They wanted rulership of USA. So we call them. I mean, we know them as the cowboys, you know. But
Yes.
obviously they obviously known. For example, you can get specific. They can say they were English people. I mean, they could have been English. They could have been any. They could have been German. You know, we're not sure which. They could have been Irish. We're not sure which specific place in Europe they came from. I see we got one other viewer here.
Yeah, I was going to say hi. Yeah. Welcome to our show. Yeah, thanks for
Welcome to,
tuning in live. Yeah. Yeah, I hope to
welcome
see
to this other viewer. If you want to give some comments and join, I can send you the link also in the comments. You
all
can
right. So,
join the chat.
yeah. So let's go back. So let me comment on that. I mean, obviously I believe that culture is important. I mean, if you want a basic point of that, we wouldn't have really any kind of lasting communication without culture. It would be impossible. You wouldn't have it. So that's a main uh, uh, fact. You know, if you need a reason why culture is important, and I think that people have to transcend whatever fear is there. Now, the extreme of that would be like racism, right? But whatever fear or judgment, uh, you know, whether it's valid or invalid, so to speak, of about approaching culture earnestly, right? In that way, like for me, I would have a class in schools called cultural appreciation, and I would have it regularly throughout the child's education. And basically, I feel like cultural appreciation should be like a staple in the schools, like as a class. Um, and that to me is extremely logical, even up to, you could say, in college, in the sense that if someone is going to have a career and they're going to live abroad, right? That's, I mean, just even if it's just a refresher of when they were younger, and now they're going to have that career where they could be or are projected to go across seas, if not more than once in different places, that would be extremely helpful, or even just as a reminder in that way. And there's once you let go of that fear or even fear, judgment, not to keep it general and respectful as I can, because that's like the most, we're talking about literally like the most important topic in that way of culture. And on a personal level, letting go of that, whatever that is, it's definitely a blockage to your personal happiness. And yeah, and then also, yeah, so, and then so my as you probably well know, Leonard, my foundational saying is, we all deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. So, following your highest excitement to the best of your ability until you can take that no further, and letting go of the results, which is in alignment with the first Reiki principle. Just for today, I won't worry, or I'll let go of worry. And then also a double point on that one, that resentment and that judgment, or fear rather, all three of them. If there is resentment, that's a big word to use, so sorry if that's shocking, just came out of my mouth, also is connected to the first Reiki principle in that way. So, which would be worry, right? So don't let that block your own personal journey, of expansion, right? And you'll notice that you'll probably find out that there isn't really any validity to that worry, right? If you just open that door of letting yourself be in that authentic place and context of the most important thing being like being culture, right? You know, and that's your birthright. You know, being a human, we have a whole bunch of cultures, and they're all worth exploring, and you deserve to know in you know, in the appropriate level of detail or depth, all of them, you know, or at least some of them, or something like that, you know. And then basically, yeah, because culture is inescapable in that way. Even if, like, say, in a thought experiment on that, Leonard, if me and you, Leonard, who is not on video for a second, started our own, like, there's a TV show called Family
Sorry
Guy.
about that.
You're back?
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
That's okay. I was saying my point, and I'll leave it at this, and I'll get back to you. Me and you, Leonard, I don't know if you ever heard the show Family Guy, and I guess you could say it's by Seth MacFarlane, which is the only person I know. I think he's the main person responsible for that show, and he's awesome comedian. Some people say he's a genius. I mean, the show's super popular, and it's a good show, definitely. So thanks for that. But the reason I brought that up, there is a what's it called? A part of that show where they talk about the main character Peter forming his own, like, land, like if he had like a moat and his house was in the middle of it, and he had a moat and like a what's that called, like a gate thing that goes down, and then you kind of like go over it, and he called it like Petertopia or something. Peter, and it's his own it's his own land. So basically, my point of this, and I'll leave with this, Leonard, like if we did that, like just me and you, right, and we had our own spot, a natural culture that's relevant between me and you, so to speak, would develop, right? So if we had our own, you could say in that way, some kind of consistent boundary, and you could take that to the appropriate levels, right, of rulership and guidelines and laws and all these different things, that that's its own naturally developing culture, I guess you could say, which is a big claim. That's a big claim, but I'm throwing that thought experiment out there. So even in that way, if someone has, that's now, because now you're putting a child student into the proper perspective of life, because if they're feeling like there's somehow like a reason or a need, even, which would be the worst, to escape culture, to my point is that you in that way are like, when you're developing relationships with people, like if you have friends in school and you have a certain group that's there, in order for you to have the friends, that means they have to keep coming back, or you have to keep going back to them, which is like a loyalty, reliability thing. And then you have certain things that kind of are natural developing cultural instincts. So in that way, that's your proof that it's inescapable, right? Even on that. And the reason I use that is so that you can, the students, the younger people, they don't feel so far-fetched, right? Like it's, you're hitting me and tapping me in the head with a textbook thing, right? About whatever, in this example being culture. And then rather than that, we're giving them the actual realistic perspective of life, that's true, that cultural instincts are, that culture is a, you know, a naturally kind of natural phenomena
Nope.
of consciousness. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead. So, I mean, that was a long way to answer your question.
Joe, can
Yes, it is, for sure. Go ahead.
No, does it give you option? Does it give you option to share the StreamYard link on your YouTube? Check there if it gives you the option. See if it gives you the option to share the link.
Streaming. It's streaming. Do you need it right now? Is someone going to join or something? If we do that?
Streaming. What I mean, to share it onto your YouTube, because if you can use the option here on StreamYard to share the link to this StreamYard, and it'll pop up on YouTube. That's what I mean. So that the viewers can click on it. See if it gives you the option to share the
It's gonna
the
do.
StreamYard.
Hold on. Don't say
YouTube.
anything for a second because it'll do the echo. Let me see. Okay, so if we do here, just do this real quick and go back. Okay, so now I have the link, so I can send you the YouTube link. Pardon us. 1 second, friends. Okay. Okay. There you go. So you have now received.
Now, what I mean, Joe, is to share this link on the channel, because if it gives you an option here to share the link on YouTube, it'll pop up on YouTube.
Do you mean the StreamYard that we're on right now?
Yeah, this link for StreamYard. If it gives you an option to share the link on YouTube, so it'll pop up on YouTube.
Okay, let me see. So if I do, well, okay, I copied this link, and then if we do,
Like, it doesn't have an option if you got maybe 3 buttons to share, or like an option at the bottom. I know maybe you've got guests, you got that option. Does it not have another option to share the link on YouTube?
that
Because I tried sharing the link as a comment, but it was getting removed. I was
okay.
sharing your link as a comment on YouTube, but it was getting removed.
Okay, so if I go
there was
to,
your comment. Let's see if it shows now.
yeah, I can just open.
Okay, there were.
It's
It's showing now.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's showing now.
All right. Well, we've been talking. We're at 37 minutes. We probably should end. Like, I don't know how long. What's it a good? We could. I mean, we could do.
Yeah,
like,
but you can keep it for 1 hour. I'm sure there's other videos going 2 hours, but we can make it one hour is fine.
Yeah. All right. Let's
Should
get
be
back
fine.
to the discussion. So you mentioned. So we've been talking very heavily about culture. Now, I guess what we could say to keep it, which isn't really true because this is still obviously qualifies as spiritual instruction. It's just we've been going deeply into culture. And I guess if you look at, so let's go with this. How does spirituality?
So also, the reason why I brought up culture, at the moment there are excavators that are digging up the tombs of the pharaohs in Egypt. So they're trying to find evidence of the culture back then, the belief and the symbolism of everything. So that's why I'm saying that culture is important. That is now a lost culture. The Kemetic culture is a lost culture. That empire ended. Okay, yeah, we have a guest now.
Hey,
Patrick is on.
Yay, Patrick's here.
Patrick is here. Patrick, show your camera if you want, and because your camera's off. I think Patrick's camera and video.
I was gonna say, and we can keep talking about culture, and there's a lot of very serious. We could, I mean, whatever way you want to take it, but obviously, I can speak for myself. I'm not afraid of. I guess you could say, I mean, to be clear, I'm not afraid of confrontation, but you don't want confrontation. What you want is honest work, and in
Does
that,
it give you an option to add Patrick? See if it gives you an option to add him. I think maybe he requested to be added. Just see if you can add him. Do an option to add him, because I can see maybe he requested to be added. See if you can add him. It's showing now we got no viewers here, so I don't know if Patrick, if you can confirm him to be added.
Let's keep going with our talk.
Okay, so I was saying that they're digging up the evidence, right, for a civilization that has been long lost. The last pharaoh being Pharaoh Cleopatra, female pharaoh. the last pharaoh was actually shall I say the word destroyed, right? Because she was murdered also, but I can use the word destroyed, or that empire destroyed through her because she was the last one, by the Roman Empire. I don't know if you've watched Cleopatra on Netflix as well, the story of Cleopatra and Antony. So basically, from what I've watched from the show, is that Cleopatra fell in love with obviously Caesar to bring two great empires together, the Egyptians and obviously the Romans.
Okay. Yeah.
She had a son from Caesar. I think it's Caesar Augustus, the second Caesar.
Okay.
And so they basically murdered him because he wanted to give her like some power in Rome, you know. So they murdered him in cold blood, right? So that they could maintain their power, you know. And thereafter, she fell in love with a Roman general named Antony. So basically, they did build a great alliance, right? So Antony moved his legion of soldiers into Egypt to finalize the alliance. However, there was another ruler that came to power, and he waged war, obviously, against Cleopatra and Antony. And the Romans eventually they conquered, they won, they destroyed both Cleopatra and Antony, and basically looted. Use the word looted Egypt, and from that time began the great fall of Africa. Because if you are looting and destroying the treasure house of Africa, then the whole continent will fall. So that many people don't know the reason why the economies in Africa are so bad, or why the economies the different countries in Africa like Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, there are many other countries in Africa. Why are their economies so low or weak? It's because of that treasure house that was looted. Because Egypt had the greatest treasures this world has ever known. It had diamonds, jewels, it had gold, it had pure gold. Now, at the moment in Africa, we don't even have that kind of pure gold anymore. It's actually, we got more like copper and, bronze now. So basically, they were successful in destroying basically our system, our economy and everything.
Yes. So
So now we have to build now Africa from basically the ground up. It's like you at
okay.
your lowest point now in Africa. So basically now you got to try and build it up, And the foundation was actually those treasures. And we actually know where the treasures are sitting, but we cannot take them back. We cannot do anything about it, you see. So when the world looks at Africa, they always say lazy people or people that are uneducated, or these are just poor people, get rid of them or don't care about them. But the world does not know the history that Africa was great at one point in time. And Egypt welcomed all the nations. When you talk about culture, they welcomed every single culture. They welcomed people to join, welcomed alliances, welcomed treaties with other nations, and obviously they expected respect. So if any visitor disrespected the god of Egypt or the king of Egypt, that person would obviously be punished or killed. So Egypt demanded respect and gave respect, because Egypt was a mighty nation. We talk about the Kemetic nation as the head of Africa, that every single country in Africa was under Egypt. In Egypt is actually the biggest country in the Middle East compared to other countries like Iraq and Iran. Those are smaller countries. Egypt is the biggest. It's like 10 times the size of the other countries. It's 10 times the size of Palestine, 10 times the size of Israel.
Hi, Patrick.
So basically,
Yeah,
Joe, that's now.
Hey, man.
I
So
don't know
what?
if Patrick is trying to come. Oh, Patrick, yeah.
So what I was
Let's
gonna,
see if we
what I was
can
gonna
add
say,
Patrick.
yeah, Patrick's added fine. So what I was gonna say for this video, and I don't want to make it maybe too much longer than an hour, but yay, Patty!
I
So
added him to the stage.
we've been discussing
I
culture.
added him to the stage. Mr.
Thank you.
Patrick is on the stage now.
Yes. So we've been discussing culture, but the title of this is spiritual instruction. So what I want to do, because this isn't cultural appreciation or cultural instruction in particular, even though it's still a pretty good video, how does this tie into spirituality? We could say, make some points in there, and then basically wrap up the video. So we mentioned the 5 Reiki principles, and I guess we could say I'll have you know that the 5 Reiki principles are for everybody, ever, so to speak, to use a dramatic word. And they certainly they don't lead to despair. They are the proper footpath of the soul. Even if you don't believe in the soul, there's people that probably still, I could assert, I guess, probabilistically speaking, that don't believe in the soul in this lifetime or whatever, not to be offensive, but they still adhere to the 5 Reiki principles, and that brings alignment and peace and sustaining good character for their life. So that's why I say the 5 Reiki principles are the footpath, so to speak, toward enlightenment. But basically, so in context of culture, and I'm glad that you're well versed in culture, obviously, Leonard. We've mentioned, some stuff, and you've shown off your history, your knowledge, your memory of culture, which is lovely. So just in that way, we could say, what's a spiritual perspective, I guess. I mean, even just to the fact of
gratefulness
and empathic listening to others. I mentioned a school setting earlier, and people, young adults, students, developing individuals, being in the school setting, and then being in that place where uh, you know, like a sociologist could write a thesis on it, right? So sociology being like that study of social interactions on a macrocosmic or microcosmic level. So an example, this would be a microcosmic example, like with us here and in the school setting. Macrocosmic is maybe a town, or you could say, I mean, the biggest would be globally, obviously. And you have like the United Nations and stuff, and how they relate to each other and get things done all together. But yeah, so spirituality in that way, I think of like Bobby McFerrin. He has an album, had and has had both an album, one of the best musicians, we could say in that kind of way. Um, and he had an album called Spirit You All. And that album is a kind of play on words, spiritual, and then he spelled it spirit, Spirit, and then Youall instead of Spirual. Can you turn the music off before and then we'll do that. We'll do
I
that.
just put some music on.
It's
okay, carry on.
We'll do music at the outro.
Are you finished?
Let me finish. Hold on, Leonard. Let me finish this point, and then we'll get Patrick in, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. So basically, my main point of this, how this ties into spirituality, is basically that what you have is spirit. So if we just made the point of sociology and that perspective in its entirety, and then spiritual in being a universal, and then you all, even we could say beyond our realm, in the sense of there being different levels of consciousness and or heaven. And then if we go talk about channeling, different levels, dimensions, spirit you all being an all pervasive energy of love. right? So that is how. And then you talk about Jesus Christ, the ascended master, Yeshua, the ascended master, and Holy Spirit, and how Christ made a point, as we know of in the Bible, in the red letters, of fellowship. And when you confess, don't just confess to the priests in the robes, but confess to your friends and your fellows. And in that energy, there's the Holy Spirit is present, and that's the correlation between Holy Spirit and that spirit that it's the same, I guess you could say, spirit of the living God in the sense of universality, and then Reiki being the universal energy, universal, the white light of God, which is a very real occupation, just like a pastor is. So in that way, I mean, obviously, yeah, so that's my spiritual point, I guess, in the sense of, and then leaving it to you coming to your own conclusions on that. You know, and you know, there's a lot of information in this video, and I feel that even the mention, we should say, and the obvious presence of that of spirit of the Native American people had their word, great spirit, or their words rather, great spirit. And I feel that it's more important to honor and respect, especially in context of Native American people. If you say, don't change the words, and you say great spirit with full true conviction, and in that saying it to them or other people, that energy is that spirit, right? Because it's respect, right? And it's honor and reverence, and you know, and that energy is really and that's like, I think of like you know, and you have contemporary Christian people, and they say, like, you know, when you go out and you're outside and you're around people, you know, prove that you're a good person in that way, rather than, you know, feeling like there's so many you know, don't let the opportunities go by you, right? You have a life to live, and then being a Buddhist, that's like good karma, right? And then you know, I think of like I mentioned, chakras are objectively true. So those, now in this conversation, we're getting to an objective, universal truth perspective, right? You can see we're connecting dots that would be seemingly potentially at odds, right? But you're now, that's why I'm a good spiritual teacher, and it's my profession, right? It's not just about preventing wars, so to speak, or you know, whatever it is, but more importantly, I guess, kind of, is we're connecting the dots so that you can see, because what we're interested in is the capital T truth, just like Lord Buddha was. Before there was Buddhism, there was Lord Buddha, and there wouldn't be Buddhism without Lord Buddha's instinct and conviction for the capital T truth. And that's basically what spiritual instruction is about. And I can make the biggest claim of all time, but that's basically what everything is about, right? So if we have a scientist who's an atheist, in their inner place, even if it's not coming across externally, there's still a richness in that resonance and reverberation of what I'm saying. That's what we're all about, that truth, universally speaking, so to speak, in that way. But anyways, Leonard, do you have something short to say, or do you want me? Can we go to Patrick?
Okay, Patrick, would you like to discuss science maybe? Or would you like to focus on culture? Maybe you can share your culture or the importance of culture. Go ahead, Patrick. Are you muted?
No.
Well, it's up to you what you want to talk about, because we're mainly talking about culture. Our focus today is on importance of culture, because there's certain religions that have colonized or basically overtaken or destroyed culture, you know. And last time me and Joe were talking about black and white. They want everything to be black and white. They don't want things to have color, you know. They don't want you to have like yellow and green and red, and They don't want you to be colorful. Now, culture allows you to be colorful, you know. So religion wants everything to be black and white. Everyone must believe a certain thing and be conformed to this Western religion, for example. You understand? Everyone must be uniform. Everyone must wear the same clothes. Everyone must, you know, they want uniformity, conformity. So that's why I mentioned the importance of culture, because each one of us, we have a unique culture. We are descendants of specific race groups and cultures, you know.
Mhm.
And that's why I mentioned the importance of culture. And if you want to talk about science, since you are atheist as well, just speak about science if you want. How does science fit in? And because we're mentioning also culture, but we can also mention science, you know, how science is improving humanity. And science does help you also to determine, like, for example, if you're going for your DNA tests to determine exactly which cultures or which race groups you descend from, stuff like that, you know. So I mean, without science, an example, we wouldn't even have technology. We wouldn't be able to connect the way we are connecting now. So science is a very good thing for humanity, you know. And from 0 to 10, I trust science on a level of 9. And from 0 to 10, I trust the government as 2. I really don't trust the government, especially my government. So I give them a rating of 2.
Okay, Leonard, do you have a question for Patrick? Because I don't know how long much longer. We probably should leave it at an hour. So we've got about 5 or 10 minutes, depending on not cutting off Patrick. Do you have anything? Do you have a
Okay,
question for Patrick?
you can extend it like 2 more minutes, or
Yeah, I know. That's why I
you
said
can
10.
extend it to 1 hour 20 minutes, depending if you got time. And
Oh,
also,
yeah.
Patrick can share what he wants to comment, or what his viewpoint, or what his thoughts regarding culture, the importance of culture. You can also tell us about science, perhaps. I've spoken a little bit about science as well.
Well, I don't think I know much about science.
Okay, you can share what you know about it. I mean, I know that science is improving our lives. That's what I know. That's what science is doing, you know. Like, for example, if you're suffering with the illness, without science, there wouldn't be medicine. That's what I know. So it helps you if you're suffering with a dread disease, or dread illness, or a handicap or disability or whatever, even just old age. We're suffering with Alzheimer's, heart disease, and stuff like that. Common ailments, you know, even something like cancer, where I can even tell you how cancer comes about. It's just basically a bad cell, because our bodies produce like so many cells, you know, 1,000 cells a day, and like maybe one cell it just produces, it's just like bad. It's like a bad cell, and left untreated, like if you're feeling sick or whatever, left untreated, it becomes cancer. So it's a gradual progress. It's not like you just get cancer one day straight. You know, your cell is bad, then you just get cancer. It takes time before it actually leads to that. So so when people feel sick, for example, they go in and see a doctor. Maybe the doctor can say, "Okay, you got a small growth. Let's cut it out." You know, and thanks to science, it picks
Okay.
that up. You
So
know,
let's
like the
let's
doctor can take an X-ray or whatever.
yes. And I'm glad you're sharing your knowledge, Leonard. Thank you very
So
much.
basically, I'm sharing a little bit of science with Patrick because
No, no,
it
no. We're gonna
interests him,
next video.
since he is a kid. Yeah.
We
And
can
then
do.
we can,
Hold on.
yeah, we can discuss that.
Video, we're going to do science. Yes. Okay. So, Patrick, is there anything on your mind that you want to talk about? You want me to ask you a question? Have the floor for the till the end of the video, okay? Then we'll play the outro and we'll say goodbye, okay? So you
All
got
right.
10 minutes, couple minutes, little bit, whatever, 10 minutes, whatever. whatever you want to
So
talk about.
do you believe in like the Bible?
Bible. Well, yeah, I mean, and yeah, I can answer a few stuff, but I do want to hear your opinion if you feel comfortable, obviously. And even just having you on here listening and seeing your beautiful face is more than enough, and being, respectful, as you've proven that you are, even just a short time. And I know you from before, and you're awesome. Um, uh, anyway, so I've written a book called The Reiki Bible, A Guide to Reiki Living. So if you go into you're talking about the Holy Bible. I have a Holy Bible in my house. I don't believe in what is it? Well, that's the wrong way to start that sentence. I guess you could say link my soul to the group of the Great Help, also known as the Great White Brotherhood, known as the Ascended Masters, and Yeshua, Jesus Christ, is one with thee, one of the Ascended Masters. And so there would be no Bible in that way without Yeshua. So that's my basic perspective or answer to that question. Earlier we mentioned Holy Spirit, which is obviously linked to Yeshua, the Ascended Master, popular under the name of Jesus Christ, but is not bound to, we could say in that way, in context, so to speak. And the proof of that is that if the this is an interesting point of discussion, and I am a Reiki master, and obviously Reiki and Holy Spirit on the same sides of God's will and omnibenevolence and healing and well-being for all. So in no way is there ever a war or a battle. There would only be a battle of the minds that's based in ignorance, and hopefully it resolves in a matter of seconds, if ever comes up, because there's no validity to that in the real way. But to me, I feel it's very important to understand that there's a reason that you have instincts, and there's a reason that going with that point, your instincts, your soul, your spirit, even your survival, we could say, I mean, people that believe in God, and there's war stories that people could tell, like Todd White. Todd White was into drugs and stuff, and then he would have died, and he firmly believes that the bullets, literally someone was at 5 feet away from him shooting a gun. They shot it, I think he said, like more than 5 times. They shot it like 9 times, and they were like 5 feet away from him after he did like a drug deal. And he somehow, I think he might have taken 1 bullet and then survived, but he was like, how is that possible that I didn't die? The guy was like 5 feet away from me and shot a gun 9 times, right? Who may have already killed people before and like nothing. And then his life became basically like, 2x4 towards Yeshua after that, in that way. But anyways, my answer that the Bible is that there's an energy of love in, obviously, we could say, and purity is the right word in the Bible. I don't. And then obviously, following your highest excitement, you have to understand there's a reason that your instincts, back to your instincts, it's your personal relationship with God, and there would be no such thing as Yeshua without that, meaning that Yeshua wouldn't exist without that being a personal me and then God, and that's it, relationship, right? That's like the ground of being of Christ. So if you understand that as the foundation of Christianity, that last little example, the words that I just said about the nature of Christ is the foundation of all Christianity. So test with extreme metal for your own well-being first, so to speak, and then once you have the right on track, then you can help and guide other people. All of the things, all of them, and you could say especially the things that claim to be part of Christianity. And then you could take that, and if we use the Bible as an example, if someone is what we call a Bible thumper, and they aren't it's not in alignment with that fact of the foundation of Christianity, then what you have a problem. And that problem may not be able to be resolved by you or any of your actions or words. And that's the letting go. Being Buddhist, obviously, that's a key thing, and not just for Buddhists, it's really for everyone, letting go. It resonates with your crown chakra, which we all have objectively, and and all the chakras are connected, they commune with each other inextricably, so to speak. But yeah, so I mean, that's my basic answer with that. And then obviously, like I said, I've had my own personal experiences of with the Bible, reading the Bible. I don't read the Bible as regularly as I used to. I'm more one for music and my own personal prayers. Thus, the Facebook page Healing Prayers, on which I have my camo pants and my hands raised with a hoodie. I was on the steps where they filmed Rocky. Where they filmed that scene where he runs up the top and he's doing the thing.
Eye of the tiger.
He took the picture of me up there. I had the camo pants. That's where that picture is. But anyways, and the same thing with Christ. There would be no Christ without that same exact thing. Personal prayer, completely personal and completely one directed to the best of one's ability towards God. And then what happens naturally, also being a Buddhist, is and you could say unbeknownst to that soul, ego loss, right? So that fearful separate self starts to go away. And then what you have is you have a more calm, soothing, powerful, insightful, focused, directed, gentle, wise, and on-track soul and person, right? That's what you have because of that. So yeah, that's my perspective. And in the context of the Bible, if you are opening the Bible, opening the book with that in the intention, that's correct, then you're good. And then basically, if you're in a place where your intention is not so great and you're opening the Bible, you might as well just, why don't you relax for a second and let yourself be honest with yourself. Okay? Relax. It's a book. It's it, and that's what it is. It's okay. You're not gonna go to hell, immediately or whatever, or at all, so to speak, to calm you down at least. I do my best with words, but just because you're putting the Bible down, right? And then you have to look into yourself, and then that's my realm as a master healer, Reiki master. My expertise is, for that person's well-being, is that to understand that, we go back to the foundational saying, you deserve to be happy and not suffer needlessly. Transcending that fear of whatever that is, in Christ, nowhere in Christ is there ever an energy of terrorization, right? To that point of causing another person despair. Christ, I can tell, at least from me, that there is that leave it to Godness, right? So if Christ recognizes with his instincts a passerby or some kind of situation or something, whether he's involved in any degree, and notices the fault, there's an energy in Christ where it's in awe of God's will, and then that's it. And when you're in awe of God's will, what happens a lot of the times is none of that confrontation happens, and you're just in that place of alignment and peace, and you're walking right through and past that situation, which is founded in ignorance, right? And that's that peace of Christ. And that's the so that's all I can share on that.
Okay. Can I interject?
No, hold on. Wait, let's let Patrick speak because he hasn't spoken yet, Leonard, okay?
Okay.
Well, I heard that science disproves Adam and Eve's existence from biology.
Oh, that's interesting. You said from a but can you say more on biology? Say whatever you want. I mean, we'll do three more minutes, so we'll go till we'll wrap up at 6 minutes from now, and then we'll play the little song at the end. We'll wrap up, okay? So yeah, whatever you want to talk about, Patrick. I mean, I'm just interested. You said biology.
Well, there's a scientist named Francis Collins, and he said it was impossible for us to come from two humans.
Impossible for us to come from two humans. So he was asserting or making an argument or following a line of thought that is doing what it's best to support the creation story as according to the Bible as a biologist, saying that just being one man and one woman isn't enough to fill in the whole story. Is that what that's about?
Well, I mean that the whole human race that we see today couldn't have come from just two humans, and that we would have died out from incest.
Well, that I mean, biologically, there is a point to what you're saying about incest. But yeah, I mean, incest in the sense of, yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, you could even take that in the counter argument, though. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know. I mean, is there any exploration in this, Patrick, that makes you uncomfortable in that way? Because I mean, I'm interested in that, as your friend, in that way, and I feel like that's a very big point, especially what I've noticed, at least personally, technology and all, in real life and all, I guess, and I've being a philosopher, watching discussions before. I was an atheist for 2 years, earlier in my life, and I feel that it's important, for people to talk openly about what is uncomfortable, and then you gotta notice that part that comes up. That's like, whoa, we were way out of line here, even though we think it was super important, right? So it's like you get caught in there. It's like your hair gets caught in a blender. You know what I mean? It's like we're talking about God, and I have to get this point, and if I don't, what's going to happen? It's okay. Like, I mean, I happen to believe in God, but even in that way, it's kind of like, if you're an atheist, it's like, I mean, not to make it funny, but like you still got EBT, like, you know what I mean? You still got SSI, like me, you know what I mean? Or whatever you want to say, hopefully, you know what I mean?
What is SSI?
It's like a Social Security basic income for people that don't have a lot of money. And EBT is electronic balance transfer, which is food stamps, which is like a card that you get that you can only use to buy food throughout the month, that you can have indefinitely, so to speak.
Yeah, I have the EBG card.
Yeah, I mean, like, that makes me very comfortable. But yeah, I mean, all right. Well, we've got two more minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Anything you want to go with, Patrick? I mean, you mentioned the biology thing in context of the creation story, something that you had seen.
Well, I guess it's just one family, right? I mean, Adam and Eve and their kid. So who else would they have had sex with?
Patrick.
Well, yeah, well, I get what you mean. Yeah, you're saying because it's like it would be incest, right? I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's neither here nor there, and certainly can be interpreted as insensitive and insulting, even just on a politically correct level, to another human being. So if I was, you know what I mean? Like, if you were gonna go up to someone who is, it's a human, and their belief about the Bible. I mean, it's more important. Like, it's the same impetus as the comforting thing, and letting yourself, tune in with that comfort or uncomfort. On the other person's end, if they were, it's a great thing for you to allow yourself, to be sensitive to that other person, just as a human being, from you being a human to another human being. But yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah. So that's my perspective on that, is that wise, gentle, this is a good prayer or intention or affirmation, that wise and gentle voice, which I'm encouraging, I guess, in this kind of way, which obviously God would want to win out, so to speak, grows, that becomes more easy to follow. And then that's it. Amen.
So, Patrick, you asked a question about the Bible. So, just a little info about it. It comes from many cultures. So, the Bible is a construct of many beliefs. It's not just Judaism. So, if you ask, is it reliable? You can say it is kind of reliable because it comes from many different cultures, but there's many insightful things, there's knowledge in the Bible, but also superstitious things mixed in. So that is why so many people got different interpretations. You have so many different denominations. You have so many different cults within Christianity, not to speak about outside of Christianity. So it's a mix of many beliefs, many cultures together, because if you read Proverbs, it comes from the Greeks. If you read the beginning of the stories, it's got Gilgamesh stories there as well. So it's Mesopotamian as well. It's inside. It's so intertwined and mixed. It's got so many different, like one chapter can have like 5 different beliefs from 5 different cultures. Just an example, you know. So it is kind of reliable because it's based on different cultures. As we said, culture is important. However, you cannot take it as the final authority, because if you're reading books, there's endless books. There's the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is more reliable. You can't just say we will read the Bible. That's it. What about the Dead Sea Scrolls that came before the Bible, right? Then read the books that came before the Dead Sea Scrolls, like the papyrus, Egyptian papyrus Bible, the accounts that were written on the papyrus, you know, and then go back. Because you can't say, for example, the Bible is like the final authority, you know, it's like the most supreme book ever. Because there were books before it and there's books after it. I mean, some of the stories in our Hadiths, yeah, it's kind of laughable. You can laugh at them, but they were basically everything Muhammad said and did. So it's got accounts of his life. It's got his accounts with other cultures, his accounts with Jews, where he took his beliefs from. You would see that he would see the Jews practicing something, the Jews believing something, and then basically he would copy it or adopt it in his belief. You understand? So basically, there are books, there are other books. It's not just the Bible that is the final authority. There are Egyptian books, there are Babylonian books, you know, from different cultures. There are usually cultures like they don't record, and that's the big mistake. You should actually do rock paintings, rock carvings, you know, to leave some kind of evidence you were there, you know, or some kind of evidence that you believed certain things or practice certain things, so that the following generations can actually learn about you. And cultures, obviously, they focus on oral transmission, and it's not reliable, because if I give you something verbally, you give somebody else. Now, what if something happens to you or that person and it's not recorded? What if the meaning of what I said is lost? You know, because it's just given to you verbally. But if I give you something in writing, you will take that, you give it to someone else, that person will give someone else, that person will give so on and so forth, for up to 10, 11 generations, and everyone will read the same thing that I wrote. So the problem with sorry about that. I had a call from another app. I didn't know this new app that I'm using called Ayoba app. So I declined it. I don't even know who this person is trying to call me. But anyway, like I was saying, the Bible, you mentioned, is it reliable? Should it be our final authority? And the answer is no, because the Bible only got certain things and it's got a certain limit. Because if you look at the Charter of Rights, if you look at the Bill of Rights, if you look at the laws that are in place, the Bible don't even have those laws, right? there are certain laws that are in your favor, not just against you, because most of the Bible is mostly punishments, spoken against people. There's obviously now good things, like you mentioned, there's a certain help, a social income you're having. Now, those are extras now that is actually coming from the government or from the rule of law. So that is a law that is separate now from actually the law of the Bible or the law of what they say God or the law of Christ. So the laws that are in place for your benefit now, the laws that benefit you, that give you that kind of social help or social rights or acknowledge your freedom or your liberties, giving you certain things which you can hold on to. The Bible doesn't really mention it. Maybe the Bible will say don't kill, but the Bible won't say, everyone has a right to life. So the rule of law, Joe, you can interject just now. I'll give you a chance to interject.
Wrap up. Patrick, do you have? Thank you, Leonard, for sharing again. That's a lot of cool stuff in there. Yeah, Patrick, do you have anything that you want to say before we end?
What do you think of the Bible's laws? Like the Bible forbidding stuff like homosexuality.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that homosexuality, I feel like, is a very, very big topic. We should put this. There's two or three topics that I already have in mind for other videos, and I hope that you come back for them, Patrick. In context of homosexuality, I think that the issue is if we're referring back to a book and we're putting that book above our own already understood highest excitement and personal preferences is a problem. But yeah, so that's my answer to that real quick. Anyways, do you have the music ready? We should play the music at the outro.
Okay, I'll play this song to end this live.
All right.
And Patrick, it's been a great honor to have you. You can also share, next time we'll share links. You can share links with others to join. And we can discuss science next time. Everything we know about biology and science. You can also point out maybe certain scriptures that are contrary to science. You can point out the superstitious ones and ones you find that contravene science or the scientific method. You can also do a little bit of homework or research or about science, so you can get a better understanding how it's practical in our lives. Basically, how does it help human beings? That's what we're getting at. Science is not something that's just out there, like a God that's just out there. We can't reach this God. On the other hand, science comes down to your level where science is it must be practical.
Yes. Well,
science.
That's our next topic.
Okay. Next time we will talk about science.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Patrick?
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you, Patrick.
And thank you for one more viewer that's joined.
Yes. Thank you. Dr. Joseph H. Vertino here. Joe H. Vertino on Facebook. Feel free to PM me, message me. I have books on Amazon.com under Joseph H. Vertino. And I have a SoundCloud, Joe HV on there. And my YouTube's Joe Vertino and Joseph Vertino. And thank you for tuning in to our Spiritual Instruction 1 video. We left the topic out of it, but next time I think we'll probably, so this is cultural appreciation, I guess. And we have other topics for next time, like science. Maybe we could say cosmic origins, having to do with alien life and star seeds and all kinds of different things is another one. All falling under spiritual instruction in that kind of way. We could talk about healing, sexuality, relationships, all kinds of stuff. All right. Thank you. All right. Cue the music, Leonard. Let's do an outro.
All right. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Joe. We shall see you again, Joe, when you got time. And I
Bye.
will share your links.
All right. Much love. Thank you all. Bye.